What if the words you choose could awaken a woman's secret longing without her realizing it? Studies in psychology suggest that attraction is often triggered by emotional and cognitive patterns, not overt gestures. Machiavelli's timeless strategies tap into this hidden logic. By creating curiosity, mystery, and subtle tension, you can unlock desire that was dormant. In this video, we explore techniques grounded in science and philosophy, showing how to talk to women in a way that makes them feel drawn, intrigued, and quietly fascinated by you. The hidden mechanics of desire. Here's something most men never truly notice. Desire, attraction, and fascination are rarely created by what you say directly. You might think that compliments, charm, or funny jokes are what make a woman feel drawn to a man. But psychology and human behavior tell a very different story. In reality, desire often operates beneath the surface. It is subtle, invisible, and influenced by tiny, almost imperceptible cues that trigger emotions and curiosity in the mind before she even realizes it. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who didn't try too hard, but for some reason you felt naturally drawn to them? It wasn't magic and it wasn't luck. It was a set of invisible signals, small gestures, pauses, tone of voice, timing of words, and the energy they projected that activated parts of your brain associated with interest, curiosity, and attraction. Women experience this too, and if you learn to understand these subtle mechanics, you can naturally awaken her interest without being overt or pushy. Machiavelli, the famous strategist, understood this centuries ago. He didn't write about attraction in the modern sense of dating, but he observed human behavior deeply. He saw that influence works best when it is quiet, subtle, and almost invisible. You don't need to dominate or force attention. Instead, desire can be triggered when someone notices small hints of intrigue, depth, and confidence. Modern psychology confirms this idea. The human brain reacts strongly to cues that suggest unpredictability, mystery, and emotional depth. These are the invisible signals that spark fascination and draw someone closer emotionally. Let's break this down in simple terms. Imagine two men in the same room. The first one constantly talks about himself, tries to impress with jokes, or gives obvious compliments. The second one speaks with intention. He chooses his words carefully, leaves small pauses, shows genuine interest without being overeager, and lets his presence quietly command attention. Who do you think will spark more curiosity? Almost always, it's the second man. That's because the second man's approach triggers unconscious interest. The brain picks up on his confidence, subtle energy, and emotional rhythm, which creates a magnetic pull. Now you may be wondering, how exactly does this work? It's all about activation of emotional and cognitive patterns. Studies in psychology show that human attraction is less about what is said and more about how it is experienced. Tone of voice, timing, and subtle gestures can stimulate feelings of curiosity, anticipation, and intrigue in someone else's mind. For example, a well-placed pause after saying something interesting allows her brain to fill in the gaps, and suddenly she's imagining scenarios, questions, and possibilities, creating a natural sense of desire. Words become tools, not just messages. They are signals that guide emotions and attention. Machiavelli observed a similar principle in social influence. He realized that people respond to perception more than reality. In other words, you don't need to be a perfect version of something. You need to project the qualities that create intrigue, confidence, and fascination. The tiniest cues, a confident stance, measured speech, a knowing glance, can communicate more than an entire conversation filled with words. Desire often arises from what is implied, hinted at, or subtly suggested rather than what is explicitly stated. This is why understanding the hidden mechanics of desire is so powerful. By being aware of these subtle patterns, you can transform ordinary conversations into something that awakens latent interest. You don't have to try to impress or force attraction. You simply need to understand the psychology behind curiosity and desire. Every gesture, tone, and word becomes an opportunity to spark intrigue, engage her mind, and create a connection that feels natural yet compelling. The psychology of subtle power. Imagine for a moment that you could plant a tiny seed in someone's mind, and without them even realizing it, that seed begins to grow into curiosity, fascination, and attraction. That is the power of subtle provocation, a psychological principle that has been observed and practiced for centuries. The idea is simple, but its effects are profound. You don't need flashy moves, exaggerated charm, or over-the-top gestures. You only need to know how to spark interest quietly, with precision, and with subtlety. Modern psychology tells us that human desire is highly influenced by curiosity and tension. When someone is curious, their brain releases chemicals like dopamine, which increase focus and reward-driven behavior. When tension is added, just enough to create uncertainty without discomfort, it activates emotional engagement. Put together, curiosity and subtle tension create a natural pull. Essentially, the mind becomes drawn to solving the puzzle that is you. This is exactly what Machiavelli observed centuries ago. He wrote extensively about human nature, influence, and perception. One of his timeless principles was, make them wonder. The idea is not to overwhelm or control someone, but to create an environment where they want to explore more about you. When a woman wonders about your thoughts, your experiences, or your intentions, her mind begins to engage with you on a subconscious level. This is the essence of subtle provocation. Now, let's look at how this works in real-life conversations. Imagine you are telling a story about an interesting experience. Instead of sharing every detail, you leave small gaps, pauses where she can imagine the rest. Instead of explaining every thought, you hint at something deeper. Instead of answering every question fully, you give just enough information to make her think. Each of these small choices sends signals to her brain. This person is intriguing. I want to know more. This technique is not manipulation, it's awareness. Understanding human nature and cognitive patterns allows you to guide curiosity and engagement naturally. Small gestures, tiny pauses, and carefully chosen words become incredibly powerful because they engage her mind without her even noticing. When applied correctly, this strategy makes her feel drawn to you almost unconsciously. Think of it like writing a story where the reader is so curious they can't put the book down. Your words, your tone, and the way you pause in a conversation act as chapters, sentences, and punctuation. Each pause, hint, or tease adds to the narrative. She isn't being forced to like you. Her brain is choosing to explore, think, and imagine. You've merely guided her curiosity. There's another critical element here: timing. Subtle provocation isn't about saying interesting things all at once, it's about pacing. Introduce ideas slowly, reveal just enough at the right moment to keep her thinking. The brain naturally wants to complete patterns, so when you leave small gaps, it fills in the missing pieces. This triggers fascination, which can evolve into a deeper emotional response without overt effort. For example, instead of explaining all your hobbies or achievements in one conversation, you might casually mention a unique experience, then pause and smile. Her mind immediately begins to imagine, connect, and engage. That pause is more powerful than words. That intrigue is more effective than bragging. You are creating a natural pull, a psychological dance, where curiosity leads her toward deeper interest. Finally, subtle provocation works best when combined with authenticity. You don't need to pretend to be someone else. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of perception, but perception doesn't require falsehood. By being aware of how curiosity works and pacing your interactions thoughtfully, you can awaken hidden interest, fascination, and desire in a way that feels organic and respectful. Unlock desire through mystery. Human nature has a fascinating trait. We are wired to pursue what we cannot completely understand. The mind is like a puzzle-solving machine. When something or someone presents incomplete information, uncertainty, or subtle clues, it triggers a natural drive to uncover the missing pieces. This is where mystery becomes a powerful tool in creating attraction. When applied in conversations, it engages the imagination, evokes curiosity, and sparks emotional interest, all without needing to say anything overtly persuasive or forceful. Think about a story you've heard that didn't reveal the ending. How compelling did it feel? How much did you want to know what happened next? That pull, that tension, is precisely how mystery functions in human interaction. When you talk to a woman and leave certain aspects unexplored, her brain begins filling in the gaps. She starts thinking about you in ways she may not even consciously recognize. The intrigue you create makes your presence more significant in her mind. Machiavelli observed this centuries ago in a broader context of influence and strategy. He advised that people are naturally attracted to what is partially hidden and challenging to grasp. Translating this to modern conversations, it means you don't need to over-explain yourself or overshare details about your life. Instead, you hint at experiences, mention accomplishments lightly, and offer glimpses of your perspective. This deliberate partial disclosure stimulates curiosity. It allows her mind to engage actively, creating an emotional pull that feels magnetic. Mystery is also about the timing of revelation. You can choose moments to share details that gradually reveal layers of your personality. This isn't about deception or lying, it's about pacing. By giving only small pieces of information at the right moments, you create a sense of anticipation. Her attention heightens naturally because the brain loves patterns, but it also enjoys solving gaps. When she starts to wonder what comes next, she is already invested mentally and emotionally in the interaction. There's also a psychological mechanism called cognitive arousal, which happens when the mind is intrigued or slightly challenged. Mystery creates mild cognitive arousal. When applied properly, it increases engagement, attention, and emotional connection. She may start replaying conversations in her mind, wondering about your thoughts, your experiences, or your next move. This internal focus on you is far more powerful than any direct effort to impress. Teasing is another aspect of mystery. Subtle humor, playful remarks, or questions that provoke thought without demanding immediate answers activate the brain's reward system. These cues encourage exploration of your personality while keeping interactions dynamic. Importantly, this teasing should be light and natural, never mean-spirited. The goal is to create a gentle pull, not discomfort. Mystery also has a visual and emotional dimension. Body language, expressions, and tone of voice contribute to what is revealed and what is left unsaid. A glance held just slightly longer than usual, a confident smile when hinting at an interesting story, or a calm pause at a moment of significance communicates more than words alone. These subtle cues create layers that the mind unconsciously interprets, deepening fascination and engagement. In conversations, questions play a critical role in building mystery. Open-ended questions that invite her to share her thoughts, perspectives, or experiences give her space to explore mentally, while simultaneously keeping her curious about your answers. The most compelling questions are those that provoke imagination and reflection without demanding full disclosure from you. They make her think, wonder, and anticipate. By intentionally applying these techniques, controlled pacing, subtle hints, teasing, strategic questions, and expressive cues, you create a magnetic presence. She begins to feel drawn, not because you are forcing attention or trying to impress, but because her mind is actively engaged and stimulated by the unknown. Mystery invites her to participate in the interaction actively, making the desire natural and self-generated. Remember, the key to mystery is balance. Too little information, and she may lose interest. Too much, and the intrigue disappears. The ideal approach is a careful rhythm of sharing, hinting, and revealing in measured doses. Over time, this builds depth, fascination, and hidden attraction, producing connections that feel effortless yet powerful. When you master the art of mystery in conversations, ordinary interactions transform into experiences where her curiosity and attention are continuously drawn toward you. You are no longer just speaking, you are crafting moments that stimulate the mind, engage emotions, and unlock desire without ever trying to push it. The power of strategic presence. When it comes to attraction, most people focus only on what they say, the words, the jokes, the compliments. But the truth is, words are only a small part of the equation. The real power lies in the energy you bring into a room, the way you carry yourself, the subtle signals you send without speaking, and the quiet authority that others sense instinctively. This is what I call strategic presence, and it can influence how people perceive you more than anything you could ever say. Your presence is like a silent language that communicates confidence, control, and depth. Neuroscience confirms that humans constantly pick up on subtle cues from others, often without realizing it. Our brains are wired to detect posture, gestures, breathing patterns, and micro-expressions. Someone who moves with calm assurance, maintains steady eye contact, and speaks with controlled rhythm naturally projects a sense of capability and intrigue. These qualities spark attention and interest before a single word is exchanged. Think about the most magnetic people you've ever met. Chances are, their charm didn't come just from witty remarks or clever stories. It came from how they existed in the moment, the way their presence filled a space, how they made others feel noticed, and the quiet confidence they projected. That effect is not taught in books or picked up overnight. It is cultivated intentionally through awareness, self-control, and understanding how human perception works. Machiavelli recognized this centuries ago, though he expressed it differently. He emphasized that influence is most effective when it is subtle, yet undeniable. Being overt or desperate undermines perception. Being too hidden makes others lose interest. The key is to strike a balance, project strength and unpredictability combined with an air of calm. When someone senses that you are composed, comfortable in your own skin, and quietly confident, it triggers subconscious respect and attention. People naturally want to know more about someone who is self-assured yet unpredictable. Strategic presence works because it bypasses conscious thought. A woman doesn't actively analyze your posture or breathing. She feels the energy you emit. Her brain interprets it as confidence, capability, and intrigue, which creates attraction on a deep, psychological level. Unlike words, which can be ignored or misunderstood, presence communicates instantly and universally. It sets the stage for everything else, the conversation, the mystery, and the subtle provocation we discussed earlier. Developing this kind of presence starts with self-awareness. Observe how you move, how you speak, and how your body interacts with the environment. Small adjustments can make a dramatic difference. Stand or sit with a grounded posture, move with intention, and keep your gestures measured. When you speak, allow your voice to have rhythm and weight. These are not tricks, they are natural extensions of a person who knows themselves and controls the energy they give off. Another essential aspect is emotional composure. People are drawn to those who appear steady under pressure. Even in uncertainty, if you remain calm, thoughtful, and poised, it creates a sense of reliability and magnetism. It signals that you are capable of navigating situations without being overwhelmed. Machiavelli highlighted this centuries ago. Those who can control themselves command attention and influence. Finally, strategic presence is amplified when combined with subtle unpredictability. Predictability can feel boring, but unpredictability done with composure sparks intrigue. A slight shift in tone, a pause, or a playful glance can make someone pay attention in a way that words alone never could. It creates a tension that is exciting and inviting without being forced. This is the silent art of drawing people in, awakening curiosity and engagement naturally. When you master strategic presence, your words gain power, your stories gain weight, and your overall influence multiplies. You become someone who doesn't need to try too hard. The mere fact of your presence elicits attention, curiosity, and interest. Desire emerges naturally because the energy you project signals confidence, depth, and emotional stability. In short, presence is the invisible force behind attraction. It's not about dominating the conversation, it's about owning the space you occupy, communicating through energy, and combining calm assurance with subtle unpredictability. Those who understand and practice this quietly but consistently create an environment where others feel drawn to them almost instinctively. Strategic presence is not a superficial skill. It is the foundation of influence, fascination, and attraction. By learning to control your energy, embody confidence, and harness subtle unpredictability, you can awaken hidden desire without speaking a single provocative word. Your presence alone becomes a signal that captures attention, evokes curiosity, and leaves a lasting impression. The invisible dance of desire. Desire is rarely loud. It does not announce itself with flashy gestures, grand declarations, or exaggerated actions. Instead, it flows quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a current beneath a still lake. Most people never notice it because it doesn't follow the obvious rules of attraction. Yet, for those who understand its patterns, it is one of the most powerful forces in human interaction. Think of desire as a delicate dance, one where every movement, glance, and subtle shift in tone contributes to a rhythm that the other person unconsciously follows. Even when nothing seems to be happening on the surface, her mind is actively responding, interpreting signals, and engaging emotionally. Psychologists have a name for this type of interaction: subtle reciprocity. The principle is simple yet profound. When a person senses intrigue, depth, and unpredictability, they naturally feel drawn to explore further. Their attention is captivated and curiosity becomes irresistible. Neuroscience supports this. Our brains are wired to seek patterns, resolve ambiguity, and respond to signals that suggest hidden complexity. The more you can create a sense of meaningful mystery, the more the other person's mind will invest energy into discovering who you are and what you represent. Centuries ago, Machiavelli described a similar dynamic, though in the context of influence and leadership. He observed that humans are drawn to what challenges their perception, not to what is easily understood. People instinctively notice those who carry themselves with subtle authority, who hint at untold stories, or whose behavior suggests depth and wisdom. Applying this to attraction means realizing that the most effective allure is often invisible. It is not about performing tricks or creating an artificial persona. It is about understanding the psychological patterns that naturally spark attention and interest. To visualize this, imagine a conversation as a carefully choreographed dance. Each word you speak, each expression you show, and each pause you take is like a movement in this dance. You don't reveal everything at once. Instead, you create a sequence that encourages her mind to follow along. You drop hints of experiences, ambitions, or perspectives without fully explaining them. You ask questions that provoke thought, not just simple answers. You respond in ways that suggest depth, intelligence, or emotional richness. Each of these small choices builds a rhythm that she subconsciously picks up, making her feel engaged and curious. One key aspect of this dance is timing. Just as in a well-performed performance, the pauses and subtle gestures often matter more than the spoken words. A delayed reaction, a slight smile, or a thoughtful glance can convey meaning more effectively than pages of explanation. These moments create tension and anticipation is a critical component of desire. Her mind begins to fill in the gaps, imagining stories, possibilities, and deeper connections. This is not manipulation. It is understanding and guiding natural human behavior. Another important layer is emotional resonance. Every subtle cue you give, your energy, your attentiveness, your calm confidence, affects how she perceives you. Humans are highly sensitive to micro-expressions, body language, and tonal shifts. By maintaining a presence that is stable yet intriguing, warm yet confident, you communicate signals that her brain interprets as safe, desirable, and worth engaging with. This is the silent communication that underpins attraction and desire. The invisible dance of desire is also about restraint. It requires knowing when to share and when to remain quiet, when to reveal insights and when to let curiosity do the work. By carefully balancing openness with mystery, you create an interaction where her mind becomes naturally involved in discovering you. She invests attention and emotion without being prompted. Desire emerges not through pressure or persuasion, but because her mind is actively drawn to you. Finally, this concept emphasizes authenticity. While the approach is strategic, it must be grounded in who you are. The dance works best when it reflects genuine aspects of your personality, your passions, and your energy. When your subtle cues align with your true self, the fascination and intrigue feel natural to her. She does not sense manipulation, only a compelling presence that is engaging and rich with possibilities. When executed thoughtfully, the invisible dance of desire becomes a powerful framework. Conversations transform from ordinary exchanges into dynamic experiences that awaken latent attraction. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to spark curiosity, captivate attention, and elicit fascination without overt effort. In this way, desire surfaces naturally, effortlessly, and subtly, leaving her drawn, intrigued, and emotionally invested. even before words are fully formed. By understanding these silent patterns, you learn to communicate in a way that respects human psychology, creates meaningful connection, and evokes natural interest. You don't force it, you don't overstate it. You simply create an environment where her mind chooses to follow, explore, and engage. This is the invisible dance of desire, elegant, subtle, and profoundly effective. Desire isn't created with flashy moves or cheesy lines, it's unlocked through understanding the human mind and subtle influence. Apply these strategies, observe reactions, and refine your approach. You'll notice ordinary conversations transforming into moments of fascination and attraction. If you want more insights into hidden influence, psychology, and mastering attraction, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Start using these principles and unlock desire like few men ever will.